Welcome back to another edition of Strengthening Oklahoma. This edition of Strengthening Oklahoma is brought to you by The Winston in Norman. The Winston's got great food, better drinks, and the best patio in Norman. Visit thewinston.com to see their menu or order online. It's one of our favorite days here on Strengthening Oklahoma. Anytime we get a chance to catch up with one of our favorite guys and a guy who's been a consistent key player for this Sooners team. Senior, the captain, El Capitan, we call him around here. Mr. Brayden Willis joins us. Brayden, man, great to see you. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are y'all?
We're doing well, man. We're doing well. We haven't talked to you since last month, and clearly tough loss against Baylor. Felt like a game that you guys easily could have won. Just kind of where are you at mindset-wise, and, just how do you ensure – that you're able to put the past in the past and finish this season on a strong note?
Yeah, initially after the game, I took it pretty hard. I take all losses hard, but just with that game and the way things shook up the rest of that afternoon and the rest of that night, we had some people that we needed to lose, and then we would have won. We had a chance to, get back to the Big 12 championship, and I haven't played in there in 2 years, so I'm kind of fiending to get back. But things happen the way they do, and you can't, like I like to say, you can't unscramble scrambled eggs. It's in the past, and now we can just focus on the future. So it did take me a little bit to regroup and gather myself, but at the end of the day, I'm a leader, and if I don't come back with the right mindset on Monday, then, nobody is. So I had to get myself ready. I had to re-engage. I had to relock in, and got my mind, body, and soul right. And then I went in there and, tried to get the rest of the guys right. So, I think Coach V does a good job of getting the guys relocked in. This is a team that, besides our record, we're not really easy to break, with the morale still good. So, as long as we stay together, I think we'll be all right.
So, as the leader of the team, and I think you're the leader of the team. You don't have to respond to that, but how have you balanced, not only are you the leader of the team, you're playing really well. How do you balance, being critical of teammates, but also still kind of building them up because they've got to have, that confidence, that swagger, whatever you want to call it, moving forward to play well? Like, how do you balance that as a leader?
I think it's a tricky situation. I think that it's one of those things where you have to know your individual teammates, right? So there's some guys that you can just go off on and they respond well to that, right? And then there's some guys that you kind of have to talk to. You kind of have to, hey, look, like, I understand you made a mistake. I made a mistake. I jumped on, first and whatever it was. But, focus, relock in and then do your job, so it's one of those things where you just kind of have to know the type of guy that you're trying to engage with. And after that, it's just, simple aspects of being a leader, just getting them to lock back in, getting them to focus, letting your experience shine in moments like that.
I think that's extremely well said. We're here at Friday, and we don't want to rehash what happened against Baylor. We've talked about that all week. So let's go ahead and push forward and go to West Virginia. You've been to Morgantown. You know what this place is like. Before we get into the actual matchups and what the tape tells you, what are the challenges that present themselves when you go to a place like Morgantown on the road?
Yeah, like you said, Morgantown it's a fun place to play, but it's definitely a difficult place to play. The fans are rowdy. They do a good job. The football staff and organization, they do a good job with the environment, the atmosphere. It's difficult in the sense of traveling as well. We're having to fly in an hour outside of Morgantown, then we're going to have to drive an hour to get up to the stadium, so that takes away from preparation time, that takes away from meetings, that takes away from sleep, that takes away from a lot of different things when you have to add in that, because like I said on my podcast, teams typically when they come to Norman are 10 minutes away from the stadium. Well, it's a little bit different when we're adding about an hour and 30 minutes of travel time. So that's something you got to consider. There's just, the cold. We haven't really played in the cold, this year. There's just a lot of different challenges that present themselves when going up there. So, it'll be a great atmosphere. But, the things that travel is toughness, physicality, and discipline. And, if we can do those in a run game, obviously, we can do those, I think, we'll be just fine.
The atmosphere, I think the atmosphere for this game could be interesting because you look at West Virginia, they're struggling, right? They're not having a good season. Their coach's future is uncertain. I have you guys talked about how it could be kind of a weird environment, kind of a smaller crowd, like how you guys are going to make your own energy?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about that, but that's a great point.
Well, there you go. Boom. I solved it. Sooners are going to roll now.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. That's a good point. I don't think it'll be a problem. A lot of guys played in the COVID era, used to not having fans. So, I don't think that'll be a problem. But like I said, at the end of the day, every game we've played in has been about us, I feel like. And I don't mean that to demean any other teams that we played against, besides maybe one, the game that DG goes out against TCU. But every other game, I feel like it's been us. We kind of shot ourselves in the foot. So the biggest thing for us going up there is to focus on us, not focus on the atmosphere, not focus on other team. If we can focus on us and make sure that we're doing the right things and we're detail oriented and, we have all 11 guys doing their job and we're playing 11-man football instead of 9, 10, 8-man football, then we'll be able to go up there and be successful regardless of the circumstance.
That's right. That's the right mentality. As far as West Virginia, when you pop in the tape and you've been watching them all week, what jumps out? Pretty easy to see Mr. Stills there along the defensive front. But what kind of stands out to you from that West Virginia defense?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, Stills, great player. He's been there for a while. Him and his brother's not there anymore, but he's been there for a while, so we know what he's about. 4-2-5 front, run a variety of coverages, which will be a challenge for our offense because they don't really have a coverage that they hang their hat on. They play a variety of stuff. They play, 44, they play 26, they play, which for our viewers, that's cover 4, cover 2. They play a little bit of man. When you get into the red zone, tight zone, they play man. So, they play a little bit of everything. They play a little cover 3. And so it's not like we can really expect something at a certain situation, if that makes sense. But, just looking at them as a defense in general, they're scrappy. They, like you said, they have something to fight for. They have their pride to fight for. They're going to be at home. They're going to be in front of all their fans. So it's going to be imperative for us to just dominate the run game. I think that they have a really solid backer in number 8. But they do run a 4-2-5, so if we can, dominate the run game, I think we go up there and find some success.
Speaking of that run game, you've been a huge part of what you guys are doing inserting on those inside backers in a variety of ways, heavily involved in the counter concept that you guys have been running. I know you got to watch everything, but how much better do you feel like y'all's offensive line has gotten over these last couple of weeks? Because it seems like they've found a bit of a groove.
Yeah, no, definitely. I said it from the get-go, I thought this offensive line had a chance to be a really good offensive line. And obviously the last couple of weeks, them in combination with, EG and some of our backs, man, they've been playing really well. We've been kind of dominating the line, the run game and, the offensive line. So those guys are very tight. You know, they're very close. They do everything together. And so it doesn't surprise me that they've gelled together so well and that they've improved every week like they have, because they take it serious, you know, and they're always working. But man, it's a nice benefit to be able to have a strong run game and an offensive line that you can kind of rely on.
Totally agree, man. That has been something really good to see. Been talking to some people around the NFL. It sounds like Anton Harrison's getting some really, really high grades. I think he stepped up and played well. And Eric Gray, man, he's been phenomenal. Keep giving that dude the rock. You mentioned the different coverages and not knowing exactly what they're going to be in. That presents some challenges, but that West Virginia pass defense, it's been susceptible this year. They're giving up 276 a game through the air. Do you look at that? If you guys do establish a run game, there could really be some opportunities that opens up in the pass game as well?
Yeah, there always is. You know how football is. You establish the run early, and then you'll be able to, get some late shots. The thing about West Virginia that I have seen on tape is that they don't really do well with tempo, which is really good for us because we can't rev the tempo up. And when we do, I've seen on tape that they, sometimes allow guys to run free in the passing game, right? They, cut guys loose and, don't really stick to the rules. So if we can effectively run the ball and do it with tempo, there's going to be plenty of passing game shots, So I'm confident with our game plan. It's a really good game plan. We have some good stuff in. Of course, like we have the last couple of weeks, we're going to rely on them big boys up front. We're going to rely on EG. But there will definitely be opportunities to take some shots down the field.
So that's interesting. You mentioned the game plan, and it's clear to me, like as the season has progressed, and this is usually how it works, but the menu, especially in the run game, has grown and grown and gotten more and more creative. What has that process been like for you when it's because I mean, no one has a more challenging job in the run game than you with all the things you're doing formationally, motion shifts, different types. What has that conversation and process been like for you, coordinating with Joe John and Levy and just like understanding everything they're throwing at you?
Yeah, it just requires more preparation from me. I mean, this week, last week, and in particular, Iowa State week, because y'all know that defense, that 3 safety defense, 3 down with the cut corners and, all the stuff that they got going on. And, they had a bye week that week as well. So they threw a lot of different stuff at us as well. Some 4 down front, just they mixed it up with their odd front. They throw a lot at us, but they know, like, talking about us in terms of tight ends, right? But they know that we can handle it. So it just comes down to extra preparation. Like I said, when we prepared against Iowa State, we had so many different looks that had ifs, asterisks on it. Well, we're doing this, but if they go into this front, we're doing this. If they bring this pressure. And then there was times where we got on the field and we saw completely different looks. And we're adjusting on the fly because, this is a team that wants to win too. They had a bye week as well. So we're adjusting on the fly. So I think it comes down to, like I said, preparation. And then at the end of the day, just being a football player, going out there balling, being decisive and playing hard. Like not every look is going to be exactly what you practice. But if you go out there and you play hard, you're decisive, a lot of times it'll work itself out.
Effort is the ultimate equalizer in sports, especially on the football field. Like even sometimes you don't know exactly what to do. If you just play your tail off, a lot of times good things happen. And I sure hope that's the case in Morgantown coming up tomorrow afternoon. All right, let's get some fan questions into here. Fan questions brought to you by Love's Travel Stops. Visit loves.com for more information on the nation's leading travel stop network that's headquartered right here in the great state of Oklahoma. We go to Cody Allen, and Cody wants to know from you. You've had a chance to score a lot of touchdowns this year, 5 times in the end zone. You've also had some key blocks helping teammates get into the end zone. What's the sweeter feeling, getting a big-time block, helping secure a touchdown, or getting into the end zone yourself, Brayden?
Easily getting the big time block. I don't know. I think it's a little bit of the I guess tight end in me. I guess a receiver or it's a skill, like a true skill player would say touchdown. But I've scored a lot of touchdowns in like my football career in general, not to college, high school, before that, and that's cool. But getting a dominating block, getting a guy and moving him against his will, putting him on the ground, talking a little mess after. That's just kind of my thing. I like that. That's the whole reason I don't play with the mouthpiece, so that I could talk mess. Like that's just kind of my thing. So it's definitely getting the block for others. If I can go and a lot of times, like we run a lot of those inserts, in the red zone, goal line, and I'm just like looking like, oh, just give me a chance to cut. Like I want the linebacker to come free so I could try to take his head off. But that's just me though, So definitely a touchdown block.
Gabe's getting fired up over there. You're doing things to him when you're talking about taking a man against his will and burying him. And I just want to say this real quick. I too didn't wear a mouthpiece because I like to talk a little bit. I got chips along every tooth here. So I'll tell you, I respect it, but I'm sure you've been there too. Sometimes you get that hit and you're like chewing on little fragments of your teeth. So just remember, you're going to get old at some point like me, and you're going to look back and go, dang, why didn't I wear a mouthpiece?
I would advise wearing a mouthpiece. I'm not a doctor, but I would advise wearing a mouthpiece. But hey, to each their own, whatever's working for you, man. You're playing really good football without one. So, okay, last one for you, Brayden. And I like this one from Patrick W., trying to infuse a little positivity here. He asks, I know it's been a tough year, but what has been the highlight for you so far?
Well, I think it's just playing under Coach V, if I'm being quite frank. It's been a tough year, but I wouldn't, trade it for the world. I think that I'm extremely happy with my decision to come back, and it's just not because I'm playing well. It's just stuff that I've learned under Coach V, and just some of that guidance, being under him, and just the love that he has for his players and the respect and the fight. He comes into every meeting the same way. He comes into even, regardless of a win or a loss, he comes into that senior meeting every way. He's willing to go to battle for us. And it's just really refreshing to have a coach, that is going to fight for you and that has your back like that, no matter what the situation is. And it's shown, it'd be easy to say that if we were, undefeated at this point and everything was, peaches and creams and was going well, but we've had a little adversity. The season hasn't been what we thought it was going to be. And he's still the same guy that he said he was going to be when he, re-recruited me to, Oklahoma. So I think that has been the biggest bright spot of the year. Like, having a great year and all that other stuff it's cool, but, just seeing the direction that this program is going in. And that's the biggest thing that I want to leave this place with, is to, finish this year up, with at least a decent season. We went out, that's 8-4. We win a bowl game, that's 9-4. That's bad by our standards, because I don't think I've lost 4 games total since being here. It's very close, but at least that would be a decent start to the Coach Venables era. And, for how much he's done for us, that's the least that I can do for him.
Man, inject that in my veins. That's why I think there still should be a lot of belief around the Sooner fan base and around this program. Guys like you, Brayden, I can't even tell you how much that's appreciated by former players, and it's needed by the other players on this football team. And you're right, man. Laying the foundation this year in year number 1 is extremely important. And the way you guys finish and close out is important. I love to hear how much that means to you. It's always a privilege to have you, man. Thanks again, Brayden, for joining us. Best of luck in Morgantown. We'll talk to you again next month. And now it's time for me and my man Gabe to break it down. The breakdown brought to you by the Oklahoma Proton Center. It's one of the top cancer centers in the region using state-of-the-art proton therapy. Oklahoma Proton Center, more than a cure, quality of life. What a stud. In every sense of the word. The guy's been awesome on the field this year. He's been great with us this year. He is the leader of this football team. And man, I'm buying into what he's saying there at the end. Like, it does matter. It does matter. It does matter to some of these seniors in their last time wearing the Sooners uniform. It does matter to the future of this program and the foundation that Coach Venables and his staff is trying to lay. So to hear him say that and have those feelings, I just appreciate it. I really appreciate a guy like Brayden Willis and what he's done this year.
I mean, he's been so impressive on the field and off this season. I just think he is, you talked about that foundation. For me, like, he's the one that is laying the foundation.
Yep.
And, we've talked about the effort and energy, the passion he plays with. He has put it on tape. And now every other guy in that locker room knows what it's supposed to look like. And that's huge. Young guys, old guys, guys that are going to be back, like, it's huge. And I think he set a tremendous example to not only the players, but everyone in that building, right? The energy, the effort you got to bring. And he practices the same way. I've been out there a couple times. He practices the exact same way that he plays. So he has been undoubtedly the bright spot of this football team. And clearly it means a lot to him, which, as former players, to hear a guy talk about how much it means to him still, even though they're sitting there at 5-4, it's a good reminder of, just everything this program's about. So that was very refreshing, I think, for us to both hear.
Yeah, man. Refreshing. It's appreciated. And again, it does give me belief that they're not throwing in the towel and they're going to finish this season the right way. Because guys like Brayden Willis aren't going to accept anything less. And like, you got to have that. It's one thing for coaches to, Coach Venables is going to preach it, right? The rest of the staff is. You got to have players that are bought into that and are going to demand that of their teammates. Like, I mean, you just have to have it. You have to have both. It's got to be a collective. And you've got that in Brayden Willis. We've kind of talked about that, about this aspect this week of this game. I think the offense has to win it, man.
Yeah.
I think, this year, West Virginia, and I know you know this because the Big 12 is better than anybody I know. But West Virginia's averaged 45 points a game at home this year. I mean, that Baylor team that came into Norman, they beat Baylor and they put up 43 on them.
Got a stat for you. If you look at home games only, right? West Virginia is 9th in the country in scoring offense and total offense.
45.3 a game, I believe. They
are a top 10 offense in the country.
Yep.
If you just look at home games for every team in the country.
That's right. So again, could the defense step up, make some plays? Do you still need a defense to do their part? Yes, you do. Like, they're going to try to establish the line of scrimmage. Oklahoma needs to be better in their run fits. They need to play with more physicality. Like, they need to get pressure on JT Daniels. We've talked about that. But like, the reality is, to expect that at this point is probably a little bit of foolishness. The reality is that they have got to go in there with they're already an aggressive mindset. That's what Coach Lebby is. That's who this offense is. But like, to me, you need to go in the mindset, we got to score 40. Like, that's the number to me. We got to score 40 points in Morgantown if we're going to walk out of there with a win. Like, to me, that's, you get on the airplane, you put in the game plan this week with that mentality. And I think there's going to be opportunities to run the football, but really, and we touched on it with Brayden, it's been a poor secondary this year. Like, they throw some different looks at you, but there's holes in this secondary. I don't think they handle speed particularly well. I could easily see, it was good to see DG hit that nice deep shot to Marvin Mims finally that they've been trying to connect on all year. I could easily see some more of that. I think Jalil Farouk, with his ability in space, could be a guy who has a big day. But I think this Oklahoma offense, I think that it's capable. I believe that it will, but I think it has to go in there with the mindset, we've got to light up the scoreboard to get out of here with the win.
I completely agree. I really do, because I think, JT Daniels and that offense, for whatever reason, they've been really good at home, and they've been a completely different group on the road. I'm sure Neil Brown and Graham Harrell are as confused as anyone, but this is just where this football team's at. You can't rely on the defense to get stops, right? And as an offense, when your defense is struggling, you have to go into the game with the mentality, hey, we got to win this game for our team.
Yep.
And yeah, do you feel extra pressure when you go into a game feeling that way? Yeah, but hey, man, you're playing at OU. I mean, handle the pressure and go score points.
Yep.
That's just, I'm with you. I think, I think they can run it well. West Virginia's run defense is not good. Their pass defense is even worse. They're bad on third down. They're even worse on fourth down. I mean, it's not a good defense. Now, they got a couple of really good players. I think Jefferson, 95, and Stills, 55. I think those are two of the best interior guys in the league.
Very good.
You got to handle them. You got to handle when you're double team them. You got to handle them. But yeah, DG should have a lot of time back there in the pocket. They have not rushed the passer well. And you should be able to run the football effectively and then take deep shots, deep over routes and deep posts in particular. They do not have long speed in their secondary, like you mentioned. So it should be a big day offensively if they take care of the football.
Yes.
You cannot go on the road and turn it over 3 times and expect to walk out of there with a win. You just can't. So it should be a big day offensively. And I'm with you, man. It's got to be a big day offensively for them to walk out of there with a win.
That Baylor game I mentioned that they won, that's why Baylor lost. Baylor put up 590 yards of offense, but they turned it over 4 times.
Yeah.
West Virginia won the turnover battle +3. Like those things, that can't happen. We saw last week how detrimental those turnovers wind up being. Baylor gets 10 points off takeaways, and ultimately you lose the game by 3 points. So take care of the football, light it up offensively, and try to escape Morgantown with a victory before you come back home. And what could be a very interesting Bedlam matchup that we will definitely dive into next week. But man, the offense needs to show up, needs to be alive and well in Morgantown for the Sooners to get a win on Saturday. Big thanks as always to Muse Growth Strategies for continuing to help us spread the word about strengthening Oklahoma. And a reminder to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can always check us out on our website, strengtheningok.com, where you can contribute to our team, our players, and what we're doing here at Strengthening Oklahoma. For the people that have been here from the beginning, or maybe you're just showing up, we appreciate you. We thank you, and we'll see you again next time right here on Strengthening Oklahoma.